In this video, we'll show you how to make the granny square. We're using Serdar Stories and you'll use the yarn and the hook in your pattern. A granny square is a pattern using treble crochets and working from the centre outwards in the round. The granny square overall look will look the same, but make sure that you follow your pattern for the exact stitch amounts needed. We're going to be starting off with a central ring using the chain stitch, joining it together with a slip stitch, and then working trebles. If you haven't done these stitches yet, look at our other videos first and then come back before starting the granny. To start our granny square, we want to take our yarn, a slip knot, put in our hook, and we're going to be working starting on a chain of 4 to start. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember to only count your chain once it's off your hook. We're now going to join these with a slip stitch. So in that first chain, pinch that to hold it firm, wrap around and pull through both to join and start off with our central ring. We now need to come out and get height from the center of our crochet. So we're going to chain 3 to start, 1, 2, 3, which acts as a fake treble, and then 2 more, 1, 2, creating our first corner. We're then going to work 3 trebles into that central ring. So we're going to wrap around our hook into the middle, grab it from the back, pull it through to the front, wrap, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to complete our treble. We're going to do 2 more of those to create our granny stitch grouping. And then work onto our next corner. Different patterns call for different amounts of chains in the corner of your granny squares, so make sure you check your pattern to see how many chains you need. I'm working 2 chains in my corner before working back to 3 trebles into the middle of that ring. So I'm working 3 trebles into that central ring. Going to move on to our next corner, so I'm chaining 2, 1, 2, and then working 3 trebles back into the ring. You can see now I've got 3 full sides of my beginning round, and you can see from my first chain where I came up, that works as a fake treble. And so actually the next I'm going to do 2 chains for my corner and then only 2 more trebles in to complete that grouping. So 2 chains and then 2 more trebles into the central ring. To complete my round, we're going to want to slip stitch into the 3rd chain up. So we're going to count 1, 2, 3. So we go into that 3rd stitch, wrap our yarn and pull through both to complete the round. And that's our first round of our granny square. We're now going to work our second round. So I'm going to slip stitch into the gap. So I come in, grab the yarn, pull it through and pull it through to line up my corner. But remember to follow your pattern to see if it requires this. I'm now going to chain up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that works as my fake treble and corner. And I'm now going to work 2 trebles into the space, 1, 2, and my final 3rd treble to finish that granny grouping. And before we go to our next corner, we're now going to do 1 chain, and then I'm going to work 3 trebles, 2 chains, 3 trebles. Remember to check your pattern to see if you have any chain gaps in between your granny groupings. So we're going to wrap around to do our 3 trebles. That's our first treble, second treble, and third treble. We're going to work 2 chains, 1, 2 for our corner, and then we're going to work back into the same chain space, increasing our square and creating our next corner. So we're working 3 trebles, 1, 2, oh, if it comes off, don't worry, 2, 3. And you can see here where 2 groups of 3 trebles are worked into that chain space, it creates our corner. So now we're doing our 1 chain space in between before we go to our next corner, where we work 3 trebles, two chain, and 3 trebles back into the same space. And we're going to do the same in the next corner. So remember your chain, and we're working 3 trebles, don't worry if it comes off, just go back to your last full treble. So I've got 1 more before my 2 chains for my corner and 3 more trebles back in the same space. You can see now we've nearly completed our round, so we want to do 1 more chain to create our space. And in that final corner where we started, to complete our round, we want to do 2 trebles, and then to join that round and complete it, we want to slip stitch in the 3rd chain up. So we count 1, 2, 3, put our hook in, slip stitch, so grab the yarn, pull it through both to complete that round. And we're going to work 1 more round of this pattern. So I'm going to slip stitch in the space to line us up. And then I'm going to start off with my 5 chain again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in that corner, I'm now going to work 3 trebles. So I wrap around, 3 trebles, 1, 2, 3. I have my chain space, and now you can see, because we've got up to our 3rd round, that as well as our corners, we have along the straight. In the straight chain space here, we're going to do 1 grouping of 3 trebles. So we want to work 1, 2, 3 trebles into that space before doing our chain, and then going to the next corner, working 3 trebles, 2 chains, 3 trebles. After completing our corner, we can see we're back along the straight, so we do 1 chain and then work 3 trebles in a group in the chain space below. Before getting to our next corner, so we do our chain and then working 3 trebles, 2 chains, 3 trebles. Working back along the straight, we've got our chain space below, so we're doing just one group of 3 trebles. And then back to our final corner. Working 3 trebles, 2 chains, 3 trebles. Working along our last side, we've got one group of 3, and then finishing off our final corner. We've got our fake treble at the beginning, so we want to put our final 2 trebles in there. And slip stitch in that 3rd chain, 1, 2, 3, to complete the round. Here you can start seeing the pattern of your granny square, and so increasing your granny square, you follow the same technique, working 2 groups in the corners to increase and working 1 group of 3 trebles in each of your spaces. Remember again to check your pattern to see how many stitches you need in between your groups of trebles or your corners to make sure you're following your pattern correctly. But that's your granny square technique. Practice until you're confident and then head to serdal.com for more stitches, beginner kits, patterns and yarn.